Hello students, today I am going to talk about vitamin B12, which is a B complex group of vitamins, and it is a very important vitamin. It is also known as anti-pernicious factor. Because it prevents pernicious anemia. It is also known as animal protein factor. Or extrinsic factor of Kessel, or hematopoietic vitamin. It is known as hematopoietic vitamin because it helps in the maturation of the blood cells. So now the structure of vitamin B12. The main structure of vitamin B12 consists of a corrin ring. Corrin ring. It has 4 pyrrole rings. 4 pyrrole rings are there, known as tetrapyrrole rings, and at the center of the 4 pyrrole rings there is a cobalt atom. Okay. So 4 valencies of the cobalt atom is occupied by nitrogen of the 4 pyrrole rings, and 5th valency is occupied by 5,6 dimethyl benzimidazole. Nucleotide. Okay, and the 6th valency is occupied by either hydroxyl group or cyanide group or methyl group or 5' deoxyadenyl group. So these are the groups it can have. So if it contains hydroxyl group, it is known as hydroxycobalamin. If it contains cyanide group, it is cyanocobalamin. If it contains methyl group, it is methylcobalamin. And if it contains 5' deoxyadenyl group, it is 5' deoxyadenyl So there are some other structures also which have 4 pyrrole rings like porphyrin and chlorophyll, but there is a difference. Because these 4 pyrrole rings in porphyrin are attached by methane bridges, but here the 1st and the 4th pyrrole rings are attached directly, but not by the methane bridges. So this in our body, in the cytosol, we have vitamin B12 in the form of 5' deoxyadenyl, and in the blood we have in the form of methylcobalamin. Okay, and when we administer vitamin B12 to our body, then the oral form contains hydroxycobalamin. Sorry, the injectable form contains the hydroxycobalamin, and the oral form contains the cyanocobalamin. So this is all about the structure of the vitamin B12. Now we go to the dietary sources. So dietary sources of vitamin B12 are the main, we get mainly from the animal sources like fish, meat, egg, kidney, liver, and also we get from the milk and the milk products, and it can also be synthesized by the colonic microflora or bacterial flora. Now the daily requirements. So adults, daily requirement is 1 microgram per day. For pregnant ladies and the lactating mothers, it is around 1.5 to 2 microgram per day. In infants and children, it is 0.2 to 1 microgram per day. So this is the daily requirement of vitamin B12. Now the absorption of vitamin B12, transport and the storage. Okay, so we take vitamin B12 in the form of either methylcobalamin or 5'-deoxyadenosylcobalamin from the animal sources, and it is bound to a protein. So protein bound vitamin B12 we get in the diet. Then in the stomach, this protein part gets dissociated by the action of hydrochloric acid, pepsin, etc. Then vitamin B12 is released. Then a protein known as cobalamin is attached to vitamin B12, which is found in the saliva. It travels to the intestine, where this cobalamin is digested by the pancreatic enzymes, and again the vitamin B12 is released. It goes to the distal ileum. In the distal ileum, it binds with intrinsic factor secreted by the parietal cells of the stomach. So vitamin B12 and intrinsic factor is taken up by the intestinal mucosal cell with the help of receptor. It enters the cell, intestinal mucosal cell, and intrinsic factor is released, and vitamin B12 gets combined. It is combined to transcobalamin. Transcobalamin 2. Now it passes through the cell membrane of the intestinal mucosal cell and enters the capillary lining the mucosal cell. So it goes to the bloodstream. It goes to the bloodstream and reaches the liver, and in the liver it is stored in the form of 5'-deoxyadenosylcobalamin with transcobalamin 1 or transcorin. So this is all about the absorption, transport and storage of vitamin B12. Now coming to the function of vitamin B12, we have two active vitamin B12 in our body in two forms. One is in the form of methylcobalamin, and another in the form of 5'-deoxyadenosylcobalamin. Both of these act as coenzymes, and it helps other enzymes to carry out some reactions. So 5'-deoxyadenosylcobalamin, you all know that the conversion of propionyl coenzyme and the succinyl coenzyme, it involves a series of reactions. Like the first reaction is propionyl coenzyme A. It is carboxylated to D-methyl malonyl coenzyme A. I am writing the short form. Okay. D-methyl malonyl coenzyme A by propionyl coenzyme A carboxylase. Carboxylase enzyme is required. Then D-methyl malonyl coenzyme A gets converted into L-methyl malonyl coenzyme A by racemase enzyme. This L-methyl malonyl coenzyme A gets converted into succinyl coenzyme A. And the enzyme which catalyzes the reaction is known as L-methyl malonyl coenzyme A isomerase or mutase. Okay, so this reaction, this enzyme is helped by the coenzyme 5'-deoxyadenosylcobalamin. So this is one function of 5'-deoxyadenosylcobalamin. Again, methylcobalamin, we got this reaction too in 1-carbon metabolism. So you know homocysteine, an amino acid. Homocysteine gets converted into another amino acid, methionine, and this is a combined reaction which occurs with conversion of methyl tetrahydrofolate to tetrahydrofolic acid. So this is a combined reaction which is helped by this methyl cobalamin. This is how methionine is formed. Okay. So now there is a condition known as folate trap. So in this condition, when vitamin B12 is deficient, then methyl cobalamin is not there. So this reaction cannot occur. So homocysteine cannot get converted into methionine, as well as methyl tetrahydrofolate cannot get converted into tetrahydrofolic acid. So tetrahydrofolic acid is trapped in the form of methyl tetrahydrofolic acid. So this is known as folate trap. So for this we come to know that when there is vitamin B12 deficiency, there is a additional folate deficiency as well. So this is known as folate trap. Now coming to the deficiency of vitamin B12. First, causes of deficiency. So in case of lower socioeconomic group, in persons of lower socioeconomic group, when they are purely vegetarian and they are also not getting the milk products. Number 2, in pregnancy sometimes, along with malnutrition, in elderly persons, when their absorptive surfaces are decreased, absorptive surfaces in the intestine or stomach, then when there is autoimmune destruction of the parietal cells of the stomach, which secretes the intrinsic factor. So if there is no intrinsic factor, we cannot absorb vitamin B12. Okay. And when there is chronic iron deficiency anemia, so these are the conditions where there can be vitamin B12 deficiency. Now the deficiency manifestations, what can happen when there is deficiency of vitamin B12? Number 1 is methylmalonic aciduria. So this condition in which there is increased excretion of methylmalonic acid in the urine because of its accumulation, because it cannot get converted into succinyl coenzyme A because of the absence of 5'-deoxyadenosyl cobalamin. And second and the most important is the pernicious anemia. Okay. This pernicious anemia, it happens because of the there are some causes. Number 1, if there is gastric atrophy. If there is gastric atrophy, the parietal cells cannot secrete the intrinsic factor, as well as hydrochloric acid cannot be secreted, which has a role in the absorption of vitamin B12. Number 2, if there is any defect in the secretion of intrinsic factor, which is required for vitamin B12 absorption, and if there is any defect in the receptor which is responsible for absorption of vitamin B12 inside the cell, then there is a fish tapeworm. It is also known as Diphyllobothrium latum. fish tapeworm, also known as Diphyllobothrium latum. If there is infestation with this fish tapeworm, then it has a special affinity towards vitamin B12. So vitamin B12, though if we are taking in the diet, but it cannot get absorbed. So these are the the fifth cause is the surgical removal of the part of stomach or intestine. So absorptive surfaces will be decreased. So there is decreased vitamin B12 absorption. So there will be vitamin B12 deficiency. So there is pernicious anemia. Now, what are the findings we get in the pernicious anemia? Number one is the bone marrow findings. In the bone marrow, what we get is the increased immature blood cells, then hematological findings, we get megaloblastic anemia, the cell size will be more, then thrombocytopenia, and there will be granulocytopenia. Then neurological manifestations, neurological we have subacute combined degeneration of spinal cord. Okay, this is specific for vitamin B12 deficiency in pernicious anemia. This neurological defect, subacute combined degeneration of the spinal cord, occurs, and because it involves both the motor and the sensory tract. And there is progressive demyelination. So, in chronic cases, the neurological symptoms may be worsen, and it can cause loss of memory, delusion, or even psychosis. And the signs which will be positive in the neurological involvement of the pernicious anemia will be a positive Romberg sign. I think you have already got in the physiology classes, Romberg sign. Then positive Babinski sign. So positive Romberg sign is when we stand and we just close our eyes, the sense of position will be disturbed. So that is positive Romberg sign. And positive Babinski sign means when there is the plantar reflex will be extensor. Normally it is flexor movement. So these two signs will be positive. And there is also symmetrical paresthesia or tingling, numbness in the extremities, in our limbs. There will be tingling and numbness sensation. Now this is about again megaloblastic anemia. Why it occurs? So in case of vitamin B12 deficiency, due to the folate trap, there is also additional folic acid deficiency. So you all know that folic acid is required for DNA synthesis, in case of purine synthesis and deoxythymidolate synthesis. So when there is no DNA synthesis, there will be no nuclear maturation, only there will be cytoplasmic maturation. So the size of the cell will be large. Now assessment of the deficiency of vitamin B12, how we can do? Number one, we can directly estimate vitamin B12 by immunoassays. for example, radio immunoassay. Number 2, we can go for examination of the peripheral blood smear or the bone marrow cytology. Peripheral blood or bone marrow. Morphology of the cells we can examine. Number 3, there is a test known as FIGLU test. Full form of the FIGLU is formiminoglutamate acid, which we already got in the tryptophan metabolism class. So I will not go into the details of FIGLU test. Number 4 is the Schilling test. This Schilling test, the term Schilling comes from the scientist who discovered it. His name was Robert Schilling. So Schilling test is done in 4 stages. Number 1 stage 1. What we do, we orally administer a particular dose of vitamin B12 to the patient. Then after 1 hour, we inject intramuscularly a particular dose of vitamin B12 to the patient. Then that vitamin B12 we label it with radioactive material, and after a time period we assess the vitamin B12 in the urine. So if there is decrease in the absorption of vitamin B12, there will be unchanged amount of the vitamin B12 we will get in the urine. In the stage 2, what we do, along with vitamin B12 we add intrinsic factor. If there is normal vitamin B12 absorption, then it is clear that the defect is due to the deficiency of the intrinsic factor. In the stage 3, we give pancreatic enzymes. We give antibiotics. So sometimes what happens, vitamin B12 absorption also does not occur because of the overgrowth of bacteria in the colon. So after giving 2 weeks of antibiotic therapy, we go for this stage 3, that is we administer vitamin B12 orally. That we estimate the amount of vitamin B12 in the urine. So if the cause is due to overgrowth of bacteria in the gut, then there will be normal absorption. In the stage 4, along with vitamin B12, we administer pancreatic enzymes. So if there is deficiency of the pancreatic enzymes, then we will get to know that the cause is due to pancreatic enzymes. So this is Schilling test. We can also estimate the amount of methyl malonic acid in the urine. Or we can estimate the amount of homocysteine in urine. Homocysteine in urine. Okay, these are the laboratory tests we do for to assess vitamin B12 deficiency. Thank you.